So in this video, we're going to be covering how navigation works inside of Modo. And when I say navigation, I mean looking at our object in 3D. So right now we don't have an object, so we need to add one. So right now we have an empty scene. This is just what would happen if you started up Modo. You can see this little guy's dark, so it's selected. It's an empty mesh. So if I hold the control key and tap left click on this box, it's going to add a box to my scene. So I can left click, it'll get rid of those yellow lines. Again, I just left clicked on the background anywhere. So now what we want to do is start looking at our object in 3D. So to do this, you can hold the Alt key and then left click and hold and then drag around. What that's going to do is let you rotate around your object and see it from all angles. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is to be able to kind of move things left and right. So that's called panning. So again, we're kind of panning the perspective camera. We're not actually moving the 3D geometry. So to do that, we hold Alt, we hold Shift, and then we left click and drag, and that lets us pan things left, right, up, and down. And then lastly, what we're going to go over is zooming in and out. So to do that, you hold Alt, you hold Control. So again, Alt and Control are held at the same time. You left click, and you move your mouse right and left. And just like Photoshop, that'll zoom in and out. So again, if you kind of look at those three operations, it's Alt, Alt plus Shift, and Alt plus Control. So usually your best bet is to have something like your index finger on Alt at all times, and then something like your middle finger or your ring finger, combination of the two, and have that kind of dance between the Shift key and the Control key. It's going to feel a little weird at first, but again, this is something I highly recommend you kind of get the hang of because you're going to be doing it so much throughout this semester. So real quick, I wanted to mention that at this point you should probably have either a mouse with left click, middle click, and right click, or a tablet that's set up to have a left click, middle click, and right click. Because again, having access to middle click and left click is going to be really important. Trying to do this on a trackpad, I've seen multiple times in the past students that just struggle because they refuse to get a mouse or a tablet. The other thing I just want to point out is usually if you use a Wacom tablet, for example, the second rocker button is usually set to be a double click instead of middle click. Normally you can just double tap to do a double click, so you really don't need that to be its own button. So again, I recommend setting that double click button to a middle click button. Inside of Google Drive, you'll find a 3D file called Navigation Practice, and it's just going to contain this guy because, again, rotating around a box can get kind of boring. So what I want you to do is practice navigating, zoom in on his face, look at that, zoom out, zoom in on his hand, try to rotate around that, and just kind of get a feel for what's happening as you're moving, panning around, zooming in and out, because after a while, it's going to feel like your rotation point is a little bit off. So now if I try to rotate kind of around his hand, it's rotating in a weird way. So just practicing this, you'll kind of get the hang of moving around and getting a feel for 3D in general. So just two really quick hotkeys that I want you to kind of remember would be the A key. What that's going to do, A is an apple, is it's going to re-zoom in on your entire object in the scene. So if I zoom all the way in like on his thigh, I hit the A key, it's going to zoom and recenter the camera. So now when I rotate back around, zoom back in, pan around, and then I zoom out, start moving around, what it's going to do is it's going to kind of reset everything and make it to where I can kind of rotate freely again. Because after a while, it's going to start feeling a little bit weird. And you can see now it's kind of rotating around this point. If I hit the A key, now it'll start rotating around his center mass again. So kind of what I want you to do just as an exercise, just do this long enough until you're comfortable in 3D space, is kind of zoom in on kind of the 5 different kind of target areas of him. So his face, his hand, foot, other hand. So zoom in, look at his ear, look at his other ear, rotate around to the back of his head, the top of his head, zoom out, zoom all the way out, then zoom into his hand, and now when I start rotating around, it's going to feel a little bit weird. So what I can do is hit A to reset. Now I can zoom in on his hand, rotate around, and start panning until that feels kind of good. Zoom out, try to do it to his foot. If I start rotating around and it feels a little bit weird, just hit that A key, it'll zoom you back out and then zoom back in on his foot and rotate around. I just want you to kind of zoom in on all these places, maybe look at his individual toes, bottom of his feet, zoom out, go back to this hand. This seems like a silly exercise, but really the biggest hurdle, again, that I see students have is they're just not comfortable rotating around in 3D space. So when I say, oh, model out a set of wings for him, I'll see students that have just really struggled to zoom around to his back, zoom in, pan over, and just get a good shot so they can start working on his back and making wings or whatever. So again, just practice these navigation hotkeys. They should help you out quite a bit. The other thing, again, the A is an apple, is to zoom out. If you don't like hotkeys, under View, right here they have Fit All, so you can just hit View, Fit All, and that'll do that same thing. Clunk, it just zooms right in. So that should hopefully help out quite a bit. So again, just listing off those hotkeys again. Alt, left click, rotates around, Alt and Shift at the same time, pans up, down, left, right, Alt, Control, left, right, kind of zooms in and out.